Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's office wants to learn more about a security breach at the Moses Saunders Dam near Massena. 7 News reported exclusively last night that a person illegally entered the U.S. from Canada by walking across the dam October 25th. Federal agents apprehended the person 2 miles from the dam. The New York Power Authority runs the U.S. side of the dam. Ontario Power Generation is in charge of the Canadian side. In response, the Power Authority says it's doing an internal investigation. OPG says it's working with authorities and NYPA and cannot comment more because it is a police investigation. And while blaming the Biden administration's immigration policy, the Congresswoman's office says the Moses Saunders Power Dam is critical infrastructure, and the office is working with law enforcement to get all information regarding this security breach. Meanwhile, Assemblyman Scott Gray tells 7 News he knew about the security breach back in October when it happened 6 weeks ago, briefed by the Power Authority. His comments tonight.
Not only just crossing illegally is a problem, the fact that they were inside a structure like that is a huge concern. It's just catastrophic what could happen.
And State Senator Dan Stack also commenting tonight saying, quote, "The fact that someone could illegally cross the border through the dam is absolutely unacceptable and puts the security of our power grid at risk. This event must be investigated, and state and federal officials must take border security seriously."